Hi, I'm Andre Johnson, Alexandra's daddy. We remember the diagnosis. Alexandra she had a history of she had broke her ankle in 3 places in 1 year when she was around, I think she was 8. She spent a lot of time in Korean with her granny and granda, and they were down and she complained about the ankle. And they were back and forward to our Korean A&E. Just put her on antibiotics. They didn't know why they put her on antibiotics. They tested her for a blood clot. They treated her for a blood clot. They were back and forward with this ankle and whatnot. And eventually she was there on a Monday morning. I think me and Karen were with her in Korean, and we come out and I just says, we need to start, we need to get to the bottom of this some way or another, So we let things sort of, go on. We says, we'll get to look at this, and as I say, then we started to notice the ankle, or the whole leg, the leg and the ankle was starting to swell and stuff. I have actually a photograph of the comparison of the two, and this was sort of still being overlooked, and fortunate enough, we had private insurance, and we booked and went up to Belfast to the Ulster clinic, and we got an x-ray done there. I think it was June, July. We got an x-ray done of the ankle, and the doctor, he said that there was a wee bit of floating bone, but he wasn't sure whether this would cause the pain and whatnot, so he would refer to see, or he would inquire and see about it and whatnot. So we were due to go back to him on the 28th of August 2013. This was, Alexandra was 11 at this stage, and we were due back on the 28th of August, and prior to that, as I say, she was in Korean and whatnot, and just by the luck of God, really, which should never be the situation, but Alexandra was going to Belfast with her granda. He was going for a checkup or something, and they rang us and asked, this leg was swollen, would they mind if we could get somebody to look at it? And we said, no, batter on, it's batter on. So they went up anyway, and they met a doctor. He got her to walk, and basically from that, he knew straight away something was not right. They phoned us to the house and told us that they suspected some sort of tumour or something in the leg. So we were, with the 2 older girls, but the 2 lads were 5 and 7 at the time, very, very young and whatnot. So Alexandra got out of the back of the car and her face had dropped, but you just have thought like somebody had slept on it, And we got out there and she had to go to the toilet or something, and we got a phone call then to go straight back to the Musgrave Hospital. Done the usual tests and blood tests and stuff, and then things just seemed to sort of move very, very fast. Basically what they were able to say was that they seen enough through them, right? Like there's no, at this stage a biopsy wasn't even done, but whatever they were able to see in a microscope, whatever, but they decided they had to act very quickly. So this, I think, was a Tuesday, and I think by the Thursday, she got the biopsy done on the Wednesday in the left leg, and we were in the Royal on the Thursday, and treatment had started. And this was before even the biopsy result was back. They just knew it was Ewing sarcoma. It's hard to sort of describe how you feel, really, You just basically, as I see it, anybody, you just go into survival mode. You go into this, right, okay, right, what happens next? And you think then about the boys, you think about the 2 elder girls at home, you think about everything, you think about your job. I was a chef, a head chef in the Carrick House. I don't work the next day, don't get any money, you know, like a lot of men and plumbers, people like that, you know. The results came back then the following week that it was Ewing sarcoma, cancer. And at that stage, Alexandra, it was metastatic. She had it, her main one was from her ankle to her knee, just wrapped around, massive tumour. She had it in her spine, her lungs, and her vertebrae, and she had it in her lungs. She had the base of her skull. She had about 6 places when she was diagnosed. So no matter what, you know, with it being Ewing sarcoma, as I say, it's just a nasty, nasty one. And at that stage, we were given 3 to 6 months. We weren't due back to the clinic, the other clinic, until the 28th in 2 weeks. And in that case, 2 weeks would have made a terrible, terrible difference. You know, because they just had to bombard Alexandra with strong chemo, just really just bombard her with it, you know. I just describe it to people, even if they're joining it, you know, that you're just in a bubble for 3 months at least, I found, you know. You're just in a survival bubble, and at times you just wanted to prick it and step out, you know, but you know, as I say, you know, people say, how do you do it, and how do this, and how does anybody do it? And I say, you know, what's your option? There's no options. You know, you fight or flight, and you basically you go into survival mode, you know. Alexandra, basically, you know, people said to us, how did we do it, and how do I stand here and talk about her, and how do I this, and how do we this? And I'm going, we basically just followed Alexandra. You know, she approached it, and we just fell in behind and followed. So basically, she led the way it was going, and you know, that's the strength that, you know, that she had from. And I mean, I'm not saying Alexandra, I'm saying babies, children. You know, it's just simply amazing as human beings, what children and what they can deal with, and what we've seen them deal with, and how we've seen them react, you know. And I mean, she just took it in her stride, you know. And unfortunately, I lost my father a couple of years just before that with cancer, and it was actually very, very eerie. The two of them, you know, was just, do what you have to do, you know, just whatever, you know, get on with it. And it was very, I just said many times, the attitude, and it helped, that basically it helps, you know. So the worst conversation, without doubt, was a terrible surprise. It was when Alexandra was, it was like the day before she passed away. It's something we never thought of, and we were approached by the doctor and said we had to discuss with Alexandra about DNR, do not resuscitate. And the fact that was just blew us off her feet was the fact that it was Alexandra was 16 on New Year's Day, and she died on the 18th. So you had 16 and sweet 16, but you just never think of wee responsibilities that it's passed on to them, you know. So I had a discussion with her, and I said to her about the DNR, and she says, what would you do, Daddy? And I says, well, basically if it was me and I was going to come back, and you don't know if it's the same Alexandra, you don't know what effects it's going to have. But I says, the most important thing is you're still going to be riddled with cancer. Because by the time Alexandra was at this stage, she had cancer in about 14 places in her body. She had hundreds of chemos. She had up on 100 radiotherapy. She had stem cell. She had, you know, she was in intensive care. She had her gallbladder taken out. You know, she had been through a mental anorexic. I said, you're going to come back and you're still going to be riddled with cancer. And she just looked at me and she says, you know, and I says, tell you what, I says, if it comes to it, I'll make a decision. We'll see. I says, whatever happens, happens. Whatever. And she says, aye, Daddy, but you're going to let me go. I mean, that was a conversation that just, I say, it was just the fact, the way it was put on us, that we weren't expecting that at all, you know. But again, it wasn't really, we both knew that it wasn't a possibility anyway. We knew there was no cure. We knew, you know, Alexandra became a mass study over the UK and Europe because the way she handled it, the way she reacted to treatment. I mean, given that 3 to 6, and then, as I say, she just amazed the health, you know, the doctors, and she amazed everybody, you know. She just the way she bounced back and bounced back. And the one thing I say about people is, no matter what, even the day in the morning or whatever of Alexandra, you never lose hope. You know, that's one thing you have to keep, no matter what. You know, if you lose hope, then, you know. I sort of dealt with it and sort of, in a way, had to sort of try and take the lead with the rest of the family, you know. The October before she passed away, we were in the Royal Marsden for her to go to see could she get a trial, and we discovered more in her spine. So from the October, like, we knew that was it from then, you know. But the doctors in Belfast and Dr. Johnson, who was just absolutely an angel, magnificent, he can only do so much, and I knew he had done what he could, and it was going to the next phase. But I remember before she left the hospital on the Friday, the week before, Karen and me were taken into a room, and her doctors were there, and a few faces that we knew, but there was quite a few that we didn't. And they sort of basically told us then, and I just broke down. I was losing my best friend, you know. Not only my daughter, but the best friend, and that was hard. How do I feel now? Personally, at the minute, not good. Not good. Struggling at the minute, and it's just you struggle all the time. You struggle every day, but at the minute, for some reason, there's things coming back, and just, you know. And then 2 or 3 days' time, you'll just pick up and go on. But I mean, she's first thing in the morning, last thing. I mean, you hear cliches of things like that, you know. You hear people saying it's all this and that, but it's true. It's true, you know. You still go through and you see something, or you smell something, or, you know, like one of her things was she would have put bacon in the microwave and burn it that much that the salt around the side, she'd have scraped the brown stuff, you know, off the thing and ate this salt stuff, you know. And if I'm cooking bacon and working, it goes like that, I'm doing that, and, you know, and something like that, it just makes you, it's a nice memory, you know. But it's a pain that, I know I've lost my parents, I've lost them all, 3 of them in 6 years, and, you know, you lose your parents, and to lose a child, it's pain that you've pain in places you never knew existed, you know, and you're empty, you're broken, and I wouldn't wish it, you know. I wouldn't wish it on any parent to have to bury a child, you know, so.